Hello, everybody, and welcome to F1 Failcast, your fortnightly live stream podcast of all things Formula One, F1 news, tidbits, various F1 merch reviews, and all kinds of shenanigans. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Volkenberg, and alongside me, as always, is our taco friend from across the pond, Mr. Esther Ben. How are you doing, sir?
Greetings. Excellently, thank you very much. Yeah, I got sick again during the week. I had gastroenteritis. It's gone. I thought it was going to take me with it, but it's gone.
Oh no!
So it means that this week's beverage is a sugar-free pink grapefruit thing because the thought of anything else makes me want to vomit my guts out.
But not made by Red Bull, though. Just to clarify.
No. There's a gap in the market there. They're yet to fill. But also, the weather's been glorious today. I got rained on really badly when I went back to work at the end of the week. But now it seems to have turned around. It's a glorious sunny day. I went out for breakfast today. I've been living the continental dream.
Ah, excellent. Hello to Jesse Perkins in the chat. Thanks for joining. If you've got any questions, please do submit them as we go, and I'll be looking down. I've turned the woman off because we've had feedback through various messages that the woman's annoying. So the woman who talks on the phone, I've muted her voice, but I will be glancing down during these. And there's the sirens signalling the start.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time. Signalling it is time to begin the warm-up lap.
Exactly. So we'll be discussing here. We're going for an all-British themed race here today. We're driving British classic cars around Silverstone, waiting for us to bin it in a British way. A bit like the World Cup, you'd imagine, crashing and burning before it really happens.
I have to say, I did feel bad for them. I thought they did really well. Normally, because I've come from a Scottish family, normally supporting England out of the window. Ever since Euro '96 when they broke my heart. But Scotland didn't qualify, and I can't stay bitter forever. And I thought they had a much more positive attitude this time round. They didn't seem, because my problem with them was always that they go into every tournament saying, "Well, it's coming home. We're going to win it this time." And there was something a bit more humble about it this time round, at least from the official sources. So I felt bad for them that they weren't able to progress any further. I thought they deserved the final, but hey ho, it is what it is.
It is indeed. It made me laugh though because I have no interest in football whatsoever. But all of the commentary for the British Grand Prix, because the qualifying was running late because of the red flag for every Williams deciding to spin ever, and where it then spilled over to the beginning of the game, you could tell that the commentary team were just like, for goodness sake, we don't care about who's on pole. And you could see the fans in the background all migrating off into the central circuit because they'd put up loads of massive TVs. So, yes, Formula One's not quite at the pinnacle of football when we do well. Although now that we've failed, hopefully everyone will be back to being miserable and following motor racing.
It is the British way. You are in the '96 Williams, I believe.
I am. I love this car. I have caressed this car in real life in a Romford shopping market.
You filthy beast.
Exactly. When my dad used to smoke, this shows how dated the world is. Rothmans were going around with a '96 Williams offering people free cigarettes to sign up to basically sign up to their mailing list. So I got to have my picture taken with the '96 Williams. My dad got cigarettes, and then they sent a Rothmans CD of music through the post, and every song title had the word blue in it.
I was going to say, what is cigarette music? Shall we start the warm-up lap?
Yes. It was all like jazzy and like middle road rock type things. But yeah, they all had the word blue in the title. And I forgot that it changes your HUD of your fuel and stuff like that. Oh, I love that. Where have they popped you on the grid,
position did it give you on the grid in the random shuffle?
12.
Oh, you jammy sod, I'm 17th.
Oh no.
Hey ho. Well, we've actually got quite a full episode this time out. There's been quite a lot going on.
Yes.
I do actually want to spend quite a bit of time on Sauber this particular episode. Excuse me, I'll clear my throat for a second.
Nice.
Sound like an old man.
Sounds like a Ferrari waiting to get out of the clearing its smoky lung.
I tell you what, I shouldn't have said it to sunset because now I can't see a bloody thing on. I think the sun's glaring off my screen weird, but never mind, I'll figure it out. But we should start with our views on the British Grand Prix, actually, which I thought was a bit of a belter. And I noticed that our post-British GP driver reviews were of a similar bent, which surprised both of us because normally we tend to disagree on these things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I really think, the top 4 guys, for me, all of them were very deserving of a win. And I was thrilled at the prospect of both drivers from 2 teams genuinely fighting it out at the front and being competitive. Kimi really impressed me after a very slow start because, as I said at the time and I said in my review, the problem I have with Kimi right now is that, Verstappen got past him and I had zero faith that he would fight back.
Yeah.
I just had no confidence. I just couldn't imagine him overtaking him, even with the massive advantage he had in terms of power. But later on, he proved me wrong, and I was happy. I was happy about it. That was all I wanted. But what I found even more interesting about our reviews was that we managed to sort of stay on the same lines even in the midfield, which is a lot harder to call given that the gap is so narrow. Particularly people like Hulkenberg, Grosjean, Magnussen, we all gave sort of ballpark similar scores, so maybe it was sort of a very clear, defined running order in the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it was one of the highlight races of the year for me so far.
I agree. There was a specific shot where you had the top 4 all going through the Beckett's complex with 2 to go, and all 4 were in the same camera shot, and it sweeped through, and I was like, yeah! That's the kind of racing that I wanted to have. And I had I was nursing a little semi. It was great.
This is the point in the show where we go quiet so we don't crash.
Yeah. Ooh, one of the AI went into the pit wall. Didn't need that wing anyway.
It's all superfluous, mate. It's just for show. It's like a little tash. It's like a little Mansell tash. I think you and I are doing a little bit too well.
We are. Oh, hello. I can see where you are. That's very well. From 17th on the grid.
Yeah, that's an Alonso start, to be honest. It's funny I can't get those when I'm actually in the season, where it matters. It's only in the post-season prick-about races. But, it's a long race, and I'm pretty sure I'll crash at some point. It's already getting dark. I've set the time to go 3 times faster than normal.
Oh, nice.
The weather is dynamic, except for one segment, which I know is heavy rain, which is it's basically halfway point in the race. And I can't see anything, so I'm sure at that point, the race will go to tits for me. But yeah, I mean, I thought overall the triple header was a little bit disappointing, and I wasn't expecting much from Silverstone, actually, based on what I'd seen so far, with Austria being the way it was as well, even though I did take some comfort from that, Red Bull coming away victors at home. I did enjoy that a little bit, actually, even if it was arguably the wrong Red Bull.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I enjoyed that from Austria. I think what it showed from me is a safety car this year is our best friend, because every single race that's gone really well has had a safety car period in it. And until we can get a...
you bastard.
Oh.
Someone just spammed me round, it's alright. I've recovered.
All wings intact?
It was Clark, presumably not Jim Clark, because he wasn't that much of a twat.
Excellent. That was kind of a bit brave, Smithy. For me, this season has all been about chuck out a safety car in the last third of the race plus, because that is what has spiced up almost every single race so far, apart from perhaps Azerbaijan, which is just, even though I detest the circuit, it does provide Mario Kart-esque racing and results, which, give it its dues, it's still good lols. And kind of makes me think more about this whole, what is a good overtake, what constitutes a good race for me. And I think it's just having people close together, having a squabble. I don't necessarily need the overtakes. It's having the squabble.
That's always the problem I have with the analysis you get from most fans. To be honest, they're always ranking it based on overtaking rather than meaningful racing and wheel to wheel battling, which to me has always been the bread and butter. It's what we should be aiming for. I'm sad that we have to have safety cars to do it, and even though the grid actually seems really close, at least in terms of qualifying pace.
Yeah, that FP1 in Silverstone, Q1, sorry. Is it 1.4 seconds covered everyone bar the Williams, I think it was?
Yeah, I mean, and that's fantastic. That's where we should be. I'm kind of scared now about any formula changes they make, but it clearly doesn't translate to race pace, and I don't recall a situation ever previously where we've had cars be so close in qualifying but so disparate in race pace. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, because most people were lapped basically around that Grand Prix, and I don't know if it's because the bigger teams turned down their engines for Q1 because they know they'll get through, or that the smaller teams are able to turn everything up for only a short period of time. I don't quite know. I assume more the former than the latter, but
we should hashtag Ask Crofty.
Yeah.
Don't ask Fat Ted. Not him, but we can ask Crofty. No, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, not the disparate race pace thing, but I like that the qualifying sessions are, once you get beyond the top 6, really, and even that's starting to come under question with Haas's recent turn of pace.
Yeah.
It's really anyone's guess. And I don't think there's been a truly predictable trend in the qualifying anyway, because really there's a lot of times where we've come into it thinking that it's going to be a Ferrari pole, they're going to walk away with it, and then Valtteri or Lewis stick it on pole, or other times it's supposed to be a Mercedes track and then Ferrari come to the fore. I think it's become pretty clear that Ferrari are the team to beat. I think it's their championship to lose rather than Mercedes, which is it's nice just to have that change. I do.
I think we might differ a little bit.
No, I genuinely do. I think that at this point, I mean, Kimi's the weak link for me.
Yes.
But I believe it's the same case as it was last year, but this year they're converting it better, or it's more meaningful. And that is that their car works better in a wider range of conditions.
Mm-hmm.
That there are more race days where they have the better car than don't, and that's really the core of what it is to be a winner in Formula One. I actually think they'll convert it this year. Maybe not the constructors, but I think we're looking at a Ferrari drivers' champion for sure.
I'd quite like that, especially after accusation gate of Kimi and Hamilton, which has left a really sour taste in my mouth, much more than I thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it paints Toto or Niki Lauda or Mercedes in a very good light at all. And for a team, these are guys who've had spurious allegations thrown at them. They know the damage that they can do. They know how baseless they are. So for them to start throwing them around is really inexcusable, actually. It ties in kind of nicely, actually, to Jacques Villeneuve being right for once, which we both agree with. That actually, Mercedes are kind of getting things their own way a little bit, given that Raikkonen's punishment was so severe when it clearly wouldn't have been if he'd hit Bottas rather than Hamilton. I don't really think they're in a position to complain about dodgy decisions and behaviours.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit and say what Villeneuve was talking about. So he was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that essentially that penalty was twice the size of what was given previously because it was Hamilton being hit on home soil rather than it being any other driver.
Yes, that's pretty much it.
So, because part of me kind of agrees with that, and then the other part of me also kind of thinks, well, because that's also systematic of him and Mercedes bitching about the Vettel penalty, not being
Vettel Petal is a good name for him, though.
That is. Oh, Petal, here, pet. Because the penalty in France was considered so unsevere, and it was again, I think the British press I suppose because I only see stuff through the British press's lens, they were so angry that he was able to come out and do better. And I had David Coulthard banging on about the penalty should be the equivalent to how much time someone loses. No, I don't think so, David. Things should be, and then saying, "Oh, things should be standardised." Blah 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 blah. So they're all kind of.
You can't standardise it though.
No, because it needs to be by each circumstance. But I don't see that circumstance being any different to what Vettel done. If anything, it was less severe. It was just with Hamilton, so therefore it was doubled.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty indisputable actually that Kimi's penalty was either far too harsh or Vettel's was far too lenient. I don't know if it being the British Grand Prix made that much difference, but it certainly made a difference that it was Lewis being hit, because I mean, basically, I think it was a punishment for ruining the entertainment value of the race in the eyes of the organisers, because they wanted Hamilton fighting with Vettel. I mean, maybe that's why Mercedes are so annoyed as well, actually, because you know what he's like once he gets miserable, and he is a miserable bastard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he fought from the last place to second,
and then was
and
still
he
miserable.
Still was crying at the end of the Grand Prix.
Yep.
I mean, Jesus Christ. And that tells me he's not going to win the next two races. Because once he gets into that mindset, he stops winning.
Yep.
I've never seen a driver have his emotional state tie so reliably into his performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like his form book is basically dictated as to whether he stubbed his toe that morning on the coffee table, or whether somebody laughed at his earring, or didn't like his ridiculous, stupid fucking glasses.
Oh,
it really is true. It's like if someone makes a hurtful comment about his trainers, then you can knock like 5 points off his potential for like Grand Prix.
Yeah. Which is so frustrating because he could be amazing, and he is an amazing driver. But my God, if I was in Mercedes, I would basically just hire him a fluffer.
Yeah.
Sort him out, or at least give him some kind of like psychotherapy sessions. He doesn't need a physical trainer; he needs a mental one.
I think what he needs really is an actor dressed as children's TV character Barney the dinosaur, and Barney the dinosaur can sing his song to him whenever he gets out of the car, offer him a hug. You know, the I Love You, You Love Me song. I mean, and also the bonus is Lewis could always do a hip-hop cover of that to launch his new album.
Excellent.
So really, it ticks all the boxes. What I did notice, though, is that I'm coming to more and more like Bottas.
Oh,
and I thought...
way?
Well, in every way. I mean, I've always been a Bottas fan anyway. I recall saying to you in his early Williams days that I thought he would, go on to become sort of a Mika Hakkinen kind of figure, that he would seem kind of benign right now, but that he would probably go on to surprise us all and actually be quite competitive.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of vindicated recently. I really thought he was going to let me down after a pretty dismal first season at Mercedes, but I tell you what...
Sorry.
I tell you what, look at him now, and tell me that he doesn't look every bit the Mercedes driver.
Oh yeah, he does. He does.
He just looks right in that team. He's starting to look comfortable, like he's found his feet a little bit, and like he feels like he I don't know if he feels like he deserves the opportunity he's been given, but I think, wow, that car's got some power underneath it.
It can't turn.
Once you get on the straight, it seems a little sloppy in the corners, but once you're on the straight, you were gone. That's Renault for you. Sorry, mid-90s Renault.
Hey!
Oh.
Oh.
You did that nicely.
Well, it won't last long. You are much faster, but you're entertaining.
But
me
you're not
for a
giving
while.
up. You're not giving me the Kimi Räikkönen treatment where it's like,
No.
oh, okay, then you go through.
Yeah, lay down. Bring me a Viennetta. Yeah, I agree with Bottas. Actually, I think he looks more and more settled in that team, and I think what he does, going back to that whole emotional point, is, and it's horrifically. I'm trying to not judgmental, but like stereotypical. That he will. Christ, I can't go around that corner. Oh, Jeff says rain. It's stereotypical of a Finnish person to just be quite emotionless and stable, but I think they desperately need that at the moment. In the same way that Haas need someone other than Grosjean to not crash their cars, but still be ballsy. Nice move.
Thanks. I was so terrified.
Oh,
it's all right.
Sorry,
We've survived. We've survived.
I clipped the curb.
Oh, I have to give it you back. I've got an illegal overtake.
Oh, I fucked my wing up.
What did you do?
I rammed the back of you.
Oh, I didn't even feel it.
Yeah, go through. I've got a pit.
We've both got a pit, to be honest. It's about to start raining, but
Oh, actually, yeah, I might try and hang on if I can.
yeah, there's I think you're right, there is a calmness to him. I think part of why he's so good for Mercedes actually is that, unlike Rosberg, he doesn't inflame that instability in Hamilton.
Yeah.
He doesn't stoke the fire, you know. And I think that's probably the best thing he could possibly do. If he seriously wants to win a championship, he needs to be like leaving hurtful notes on the microwave and stuff. Or like, you know, making comments on team radio.
Yeah.
Like, did you see his necklace? What a twat. Just really get in his head.
Yeah.
You know, do a bit of a Mansell, but I don't think he's got it in his nature. But he just looks like a Mercedes driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
He seems a bit more confident. It's all coming together for him, and I think he's going to go from strength to strength at this point, which I kind of hope for. And particularly, I was very impressed with his drive in Britain before he got overtaken while he was fending Vettel off. I thought that was an incredibly measured drive, and it shows how calm he is under pressure. Which, let's be honest, none of the championship contenders are. I don't think Vettel does very well under pressure either. I mean, we talk about Lewis all the time, but Vettel is just as volatile and bitchy.
Yeah, he keeps freezing under pressure is my worry with him, which then causes him all of the problems that he has. And so it's surprising that the fastest drivers are also the ones that seem to be some of the most volatile, I guess. And I don't know if that's just because they are so close to the limit that they can't react and deal with anything that's not under their control. But maybe running at 99% of speed gives you that ability to do a measured drive and not fluff things up nearly as much. Maybe.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, right? If you've got a guy who never crashes, not that Bottas falls into that category, but if you've got a guy who never crashes... I remember hearing an interview with, it could have been Steve Matchett, you know, the former Benetton mechanic, and he said, and actually this came up a lot in the Max Verstappen discussions, that if you have a driver who always brings it home reliably, you start to think that he's not pushing. Like, what you want is a driver who crashes 1 to 2 times a year.
Yeah.
Just to show you that he is on the limit. And ideally in a practice session.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that was an interesting point. I've never considered that before, because I thought, well, the last thing the team wants is you being in the car. But, you know, his explanation was very logical. It's like, if the guy never crashes, then, you know, no one is that superhumanly on it. It's that he's not pushing hard enough. And that there's probably more pace in the car, in the hands of another driver. And I think that's, you know, I think that's pretty solid analysis, actually. Anyway, flipping the Rolodex of chat for a moment.
Yes.
I want to talk about my deeply beloved Sauber.
Yay!
Because we've got a bit of a renaissance at Sauber at the moment, and everyone said it couldn't be done, but guess who said that it would?
Was it Failcast?
It would be. It was us. To be fair, we said we didn't think it would happen so quickly, but that it would happen, and you know, it has happened really quickly. I think a lot of that's down to Leclerc, of course, but I just want to say, like, how, as a genuine and long-time Sauber fan, I just want to articulate how happy I am to see them not just improving, but I mean, I would describe this as succeeding because you know, this is a team that's pretty close to beating Toro Rosso into, you know, down from 8th, and I think, you know, they can even push further on than that. I think you know, we're a team that's going to definitely leap off the back of the grid convincingly on points by the end of the season, and they just seem to keep unlocking pace. They just seem to keep improving. And as much as I love the Merrickson, I have to put a lot of that on the shoulders of Frederick Vasseur and the skillful driving hands and twinkle toes of Charles Leclerc, who just continues to astonish me. I mean, that boy is solid gold. I really do hope, actually, that Ferrari haven't taken him next year. I really hope this deal is for 2020 rather than 2019, because I'd love Sauber to get another year out of him. I really would. I think it would do them the power of good. Yeah. I mean, you know, they're in a position now where they're developing their car again. I mean, we've come out of a period of 2 to 3 years where they just didn't update their car. They were scared of updating their car. And now they're bringing updates, not quite every Grand Prix, but frequently, and they are delivering performance, and they're innovating again, and God, I love to see that happening. One of their particular innovations, though, has caught the eye, and I don't know if you noticed this at the British Grand Prix.
Oh, right.
But Charles Leclerc made a nod to it, actually, in a tweet, that he's really proud of the team because they've done a lot of work on their pit stops, and that even though he was out of the race due to a pit stop mistake, he's still really proud of the team for the gains they've made. And there was a lot of Twitter was abuzz with the fact that, you know, the team set up the garage and they lay out their own pit box in front of the garage, and everyone noticed that Sauber's was wonky.
Yes.
After the race, they finally admitted, well, yeah, I mean, it gains us time because the car doesn't have to slow to turn back on itself, and then it's got a clean exit from the pit, so we can actually gain time in the pits. And I was thinking, I love that you're doing that, and I love that it came from you. Because, I mean, now, I guarantee next Grand Prix, every pit box will be wonky.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, innovations that's so simple that you facepalm and think, how has nobody thought of this before now?
Costs no money whatsoever.
No, they've just moved some duct tape on the floor, and it really does gain them time because they're just not having to brake so hard coming into their pit box, so they're rolling a lot more or at a higher speed. So even though you can't actually race in the pit so much, you're stationary far less time, and you know you're not losing time braking. It's a really nerdy, marginal, have to do the maths gain, but it's a gain, and they found it by moving some duct tape, and that makes me happy.
Love it. I
love those guys so much, man. I'm just so pleased to see them doing so well. And there's been a lot of flattering articles recently in the press about Fred Vasseur's just stellar work with that team. And, you know, the bravery of his call in terms of rejecting the Honda money and tearing up that deal as soon as he got his feet under the desk, which, I'm not ashamed to say I questioned that decision at the time, but given where the chips have fallen since, I'm so pleased he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't know what to make of Frederick Vasseur going to Sauber. I mean, it's not like I was aware of him, of course, but it's not like I ever sat and thought, oh, God, he's the man to fix this problem. But
no.
I have to say, he really has. And he's made the difficult decisions that I think Sauber was scared to make.
Definitely. And that you continue to see that McLaren and Williams are not making in the right ways.
No, exactly. I'm just pleased to see some good news going to a team that so genuinely and deeply deserves it.
Definitely.
Very, very pleased.
Especially because thinking back to, apart from like their heyday and when they had their renaissance in 2001 and 2012, would it have been, with Perez and Kobayashi? Yeah, when they were like fourth and fifth in the constructors. Generally, they've always been sixth and seventh anyway in the constructors. So the fact that they're now back battling there, and we're still thinking, but they can go higher, I think speaks of just how good it can be for them.
I mean, if they lose Leclerc, it's pretty clear that they desperately need to find someone. I mean, they're not going to find someone of equal talent, I don't think, but I think it clearly shows the value of a good driver to that team. It doesn't have to be a good, experienced driver. I mean, that was something that Sauber began to do after BMW pulled out, right? That they always felt the need to have a sort of senior driver. And they had Pierre De La Rosa, and then they pulled Hulkenberg in, and they've never really been a team since the early 2000s to really look at developing young drivers. I mean, it used to be what they did, bringing people like Raikkonen and Massa into the sport, but it sort of fell away over time. But I think this clearly shows that it's a driver's team, and they, much like Minardi used to be in the day, that if they can find the right guy who creates the right atmosphere. And I think a large part of this as well is just motivational. The fact that Leclerc is constantly speaking in positive terms about the team. He's never blaming them. Yep. He's taking responsibility.
Yep.
I want to be a Leclerc in career mode in F1 2018, which I'm so excited for.
What your choices are going to be going? They're all going to be their team, the team. I'll be the same, actually, to be fair. I don't want to be a twat.
Yeah, I mean, what I like, though, and we're derailing ourselves, but we'll boomerang back round really quick. What I like, though, is that I saw in the developer diary that if you are the kind of guy who does that, it will actually turn some teams off you.
Yeah.
So there is an advantage to being a complete cock end, which I think is good, because it's very hard to do. Yeah, it's very hard to do moral choice in games effectively, and I don't think any game's ever really done it. And even though it's not truly moral choice, I like that they've thought about the consequences and stuff, and I'm glad they've got rid of the stupid contract negotiation system they've had so far. Like, I like that you can tell your agent, hey, reach out to this team for me, and I like that you can kind of build a media presence and stuff. Good stuff. But, Leclerc, he's a perfect example in my mind of the ideal back of the grid, lower midfield driver. I mean, obviously he's going to go on to great things, and I presume multiple world championships, to be frank. But in his guys right now, if he, and I think he probably should have, 2, maybe 3 seasons to season and mature, he's the ideal driver to have in a team like Sauber. I really hope that if he goes, they can find someone that can bring that same good vibe, positive energy in. And I don't think Antonio Giovinazzi is the right man for that gig.
No, I agree, actually. Giovinazzi is good, but he ain't no Leclerc. And actually, one of the articles that I want to write on our new website, failcastf1.com, where we will be having some articles popping out over the next few weeks, aside from driver ratings and stuff. But something I'm looking at is actually who are the people who are likely to step up, because actually there's a bit of a weird gulf that's going on where the next few people that are coming up through the ranks, there's like a clutch of 4 or 5 who are amazing, and then there's a gap to the rest, but there ain't enough seats. And I'm a bit worried that because there isn't someone like Leclerc who's come up in a season all on his own, where he was the class of the field in his ascension up the career ladder, because there was no one else in that year to battle with, you have 4 people of the same. You start to have a Toro Rosso problem where everyone just goes, nah, let's focus on the next batch because there's someone singular that stands out. Because
fastest lap, you cheeky monkey.
You haven't got. It's because AI crashing into each other right in front of me. Lovely stuff. And I then crash into the AI because you've got all the British press at least are going Lando Norris, wank. But actually, George Russell is wiping the floor with him at the moment. But no one seems to be going George Russell, yay, because they've already pinned their hopes on Lando Norris. Don't know why, but Russell is wiping the floor.
I can tell you why, to be honest with you. I think that Lando Norris strikes me as a more traditional racing driver, whereas George Russell, like, he's got such nice hair. He's someone that your mum would like. Do you know what I mean? like if he was your lover and you took him home to your mum, she'd like him. And I think that's part of his problem, that he doesn't give off a racing driver vibe. I really like George Russell. I think he's going to be an amazing talent in Formula One. I'm excited to see him probably get into a Force India first, but I'm really excited to see what he can do when he does. And I mean, no disrespect with this at all, but he's so clean cut and squeaky clean that I think the press kind of like someone like a Lewis, who's got a little touch of the dick bag about him that occasionally they can turn on. And, he's just immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of his problem. I think that's why Dan Tickton will do really well if he comes into Formula One, because he's just a massive arsehole. And I think there's a segment of the fans that just like that,
Yeah. Although, I mean, Dan's got a bit better over time, but he shouldn't be busy taking race bans anymore for doing silly stuff on or off the circuit. Which I guess, actually, one person who won't be coming into Formula One anytime soon will be a certain Santino Ferrucci. Who has been an absolute twat.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better way of putting it, really. I was about to say, maybe we can come up with something a bit more journalistic, but no, really, there just isn't. I've got an article almost ready to go for the website. I mean, it can't go much beyond that, really. Absolute twat is a pretty astute observation. I mean, why don't we run people through what he actually did, and then we can analyse it, eh?
Sure.
So you can see the onboards, but basically he decided to give his teammate a friendly nudge. One occasion of which was during a cool-down lap, where it was blatantly deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way around it. And I had no context for this at the time, and I've only seen the cool-down contact. I haven't seen the other times he was ramming his teammate.
Yeah.
Which maybe you can analyse for us in just a moment. But then what came out was that he, and this is my favourite part, he and his dad spent the weekend being completely racist to his teammate by mocking his accent and making racist jokes at his expense. And we're not talking social justice, racism where there isn't any, everyone's a racist nonsense. We're talking like genuine, detestable, call him out, what a wanker racism. That is, if anything, to me, far, far worse. And it's one of the few motorsport incidents that I've seen the online community completely unified on, that deliberately crashing your teammate is unacceptable on a level that warrants a ban. And I was particularly impressed with his team, Trident, actually, who were very public and very effusive in distancing themselves from it, apologising for it, and saying, even though they had nothing to apologise for, frankly, and saying quite clearly, we're talking to our lawyers and we're going to sort this out, which I don't think I've ever seen a team do before.
No, because there's several different layers that have also gone on behind this as well. So remember Arjun Maini, who was the driver, the Indian driver who was being given the abuse. Remember, he came on the radio going, "Oh, no one helps me," and everyone was going, "Oh God, that guy's mental health must be nutted." No wonder he's going like that, because if you've had to put up with that all season, and then your car's failing, and then you're not, because he's actually quite a good driver, but he's and better than Ferrucci, to be fair. But if you're stuck like that, then no wonder you're having a bit of a mental breakdown in the car. So that pays more light to why he had that radio meltdown. But also, Ferrucci and co. wanted to, at the same time, which I just thought speaks such volumes, but maybe this is probably me being a bit political, had asked and put in a request for the Trident car to be used in a President Trump campaign dinner. And Trident had also publicly put out that they have refused their request to have the car part of a Trump rally emblazoned with "Vote for Trump" stickers all over it.
I have to say I support that on the basis that politics has no space in Formula One or any tier of motorsport, as far as I'm concerned. There's no need for it, and I would hope that they would do the same if it was asked to appear in a campaign for whoever was opposing Trump in the next election.
I agree.
It just has, it's sport, it's supposed to be apolitical. I don't care who another fan votes for, I don't care who a driver supports in his own time. I care about the sport. And I mean, I made the mistake on my YouTube channel of briefly mentioning politics once, and all I said was it's ridiculous to be a Nazi, right? And I'm talking genuine Nazis as well, right? I wasn't talking like hyperbolic, "Oh, everyone who's voted for Trump is a Nazi," because that's blatantly not true. No. I'm talking genuine Nazis. This was just around the time of the Charlottesville rallies where there were actual Nazis with actual swastikas, and my statement was purely, don't be a Nazi. But we're so partisan now that people read that as, oh, I will not deal with anyone who's ever even thought of voting for Trump, which just wasn't the case. And I lost a lot of subscribers, and people sent me angry messages. I was thinking, we're just here to talk about Formula One. All I said was, don't be a Nazi. It's not difficult. And so I don't think it does the sport any good. Like, no. I mean, I'm just a former, I don't even YouTube anymore. I'm just a former YouTuber who literally no one gives a shit about. I had like 80 subscribers. If it hits me that hard, then once you get to scale, it's just bad for the sport to bring politics into it. It's just bad for all tiers of the sport.
Agree. No one wins in that kind of thing, does he?
No, you need eyeballs on the cars to sell sponsorship. If you turn off, I mean, let's be honest, in America, voting intention is about 50-50. Mm-hmm. If you turn off half the audience by making an overtly political statement that they're so upset by that they won't have anything to do with your sport, then you're not going to get anywhere. But anyway, Santino Ferrucci being a dickbag. I didn't actually know that some of this stuff had happened, actually, particularly around the Ferrucci family presumably having a pretty hardcore political stance. Yeah. What I think is particularly stupid about this is that Ferrucci basically had all the doors open for him for Formula One, because Haas are desperate to get an American driver in there. He's in the Haas development program. I mean, if the requirements for you to get an F1 seat are just do not ram your teammate and don't be openly a racist. I mean, you can whatever you want in your own time. It doesn't hurt the team, but don't publicly be racist. Those are two criteria that should be quite easy to meet, and he has failed both of them. I mean, I just have no sympathy for someone in that position. It's completely unacceptable under any circumstances to make contact with your teammate, particularly on a cool-down lap, or any driver for that matter if it's deliberate. Can you tell me what happened with the other contact, the one that wasn't on the cool-down lap? Like, what was the context there?
So they've actually smacked quite a few times. So in Bahrain they hit each other. In France they hit each other, if I remember rightly. and in Silverstone they'd hit each other several times over several laps, and it was just back and forth. So like they were going into the Magnus Beckett's complex, and it was like the Toro Rossos a couple of years ago when like they were driving each other off the road. There was also a turn 3 incident as well. So it was ongoing and ongoing. So clearly, and it was interesting because the commentator Alex Jakes for Formula 2, he was like, oh god, there's these two at it again, and Valsecchi, I think, was like, these two just do not like each other at all, do they? In his amazing Italian accent.
Oh god damn it! Why have they put dry tyres on my car again?
Oh, have they done that to you?
All right, well, guess who's pitting again this lap? But actually, maybe it's not time to change over just yet. The car still feels
I've just had a radio from Jeff.
Is he telling you it's time to change?
Yeah.
Oh, bum nuggets.
But I'm kind of well on my own in third. I've got half a minute to the guy ahead and 20 to the guy behind. So I'll give it a whirl, and if it's a disaster, I'll let you know. But you're right.
Unfortunately, I had a pit stop in hand to the guy in second, so I should still come out ahead.
Yeah, you're right though, because Ferrucci was a bit of a almost undeserved looking for an American to get into F1. I think there's better Americans out there that could have gone. Interestingly as well, he went and done a one-off race in IndyCar because someone was injured. Where was he? I'm going to say Belle Isle. I might be talking absolute rubbish. Was at the back of the race all the way through, but still managed to run into other people and have problems. Admittedly, it was Charlie Kimball, who is also a bit of a dick. But yeah, he apparently made 0 friends over there as well, and everyone came away with the impression of what an arrogant little shit. So the problem is that if you can be arrogant and you can get away with it once you've proven yourself, but you can't be arrogant when you're battling over 15th place in a Formula 2 race or 22nd in an IndyCar race.
No, I agree. I completely agree. And just knowing that he's hit his teammate, putting aside all the racism bullshit, just tells me that I don't want to see him in the sport. I've lost all sympathy for his career. I don't know if he was any good. I don't watch Formula 2 as closely as you do. I sort of get the headlines rather than actually pay much attention, but already I think like that should kill his career stone dead. The fact that his team have fired him as well, alongside a 3-race suspension, like enjoy driving in the lawnmower racing series in the deep south, mate, because it sounds like it's where you're headed.
Yeah.
I'm sure they won't mind you advertising Trump on your lawnmower.
No. But yeah, I've not seen that stupid driving since, aside from the Vettel incident at Azerbaijan.
I was going to say, since Baku last year.
Yeah.
Statement kind of loses its gravity when it's like 12 months ago. But continue.
I was going to say, since Sergio Canamassas was a regular Formula 2 driver, and he would just like drive into people and chuck them off the road, and then completely cut chicanes at Monza just to get back in front, and then slow down in front of people just because he was annoyed. It was that kind of level of stupidity. But actually, that's a good, interesting point that you raise. Is Vettel kind of normalised that a little bit and made it almost okay to do, because he didn't get a ban.
No, I said at the time, like he should have been black flagged, and he should have. I wasn't totally sold on whether he should have had a ban or not, but again, really, I think I was wrong to be unsure, because at the time I was thinking, well, I don't want to ruin the championship, but that's exactly how Bernie would have thought, and it's not good. You have to have. You have to have consistent rules. I'm a little disappointed in myself for thinking that, but you're right. He got off scot-free, basically.
Yeah.
And that's after he spent, 2 races calling Charlie a dickhead or whatever it was, telling him to fuck off. Which, we can giggle about now, but it really doesn't set an example to anybody. really. That no one should be emulating that.
No.
Moving onwards and upwards. Positive news with you. Some really great news came out this week.
Yeah.
The Renault Sport Formula One team have returned to profit.
Oh.
They've posted for the first time since a fucking long time.
Nice.
Which I'm delighted about. They haven't been profitable since last time Renault were in charge, so all through the Lotus years they racked up a lot of debt.
Yeah.
And obviously the last year they were investing a lot of money in growing the team and trying to get it back to the correct level, but I'm really proud of them, really pleased, because the team has grown a lot in size, but it's obviously bringing in enough money, presumably through engine sales, but sponsorship too, that they can grow the team and turn a profit, and that's what we want, right? Healthy teams on the grid, turning a profit and being successful, and big congratulations to everyone at Renault Sport. I'm really pleased that they've been able to turn that around.
Long may that continue, especially as with Red Bull going to Honda to help them out. I wonder how much that, or if that does impact on their investment and how much budget they put aside year on year, or if that is actually just stuff that they mentally compartmentalise into a different pocket.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, but also it's interesting.
Oh. You might have to say that again, mate. We've lost you.
Oh. Fiddle nuts.
I can hear you now.
Okay, what I was going to say was that the problem really is that Red Bull's relationship with Honda is not as beneficial as McLaren's was, to the point that Honda themselves said, well, we wouldn't say Red Bull were a works team, which I thought was a very odd statement. Them, and maybe it's a quid pro quo thing, Red.
We've lost a Ben. No. I hope he's still racing. And he's able to draw him back in. Well, it is a Failcast F1 edition. Of course it's going to go wrong somewhere. We've not had this happen, though, where someone's lost internet connection during the actual race itself. So I'm hoping that we'll be back shortly. Ah, right. Bear with us 2 seconds. Hey. We are back, and we're still live, amazingly.
Yes, that was the weird thing. I mean, I'm not. I had to stop my broadcast so I could come out and create the party again, but we still seem to be in the same Grand Prix.
Yeah, because it will just AI overtake and then we can join back in again.
I think so. What position are you?
I think I'm now in 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's why I can't see you on the thingy me doodah. Okay, well that's my stream down. But yours is still up, so that's good. I don't know which one of us had the problem, really, because my stream stayed live as well, and I had someone connected, so...
Maybe it's a PlayStation Network issue.
I was going to say, because I was reading in the news that there's been lots of people experiencing problems this weekend, so maybe...
They posted a thing yesterday. I think it's because Fortnite has had a massive update, and everyone's dived onto it, and it's been wonky ever since. The PlayStation Network.
That game is the work of Satan.
Not my kind of thing, I must say.
Right, I'm just putting my stream back up. I've got a 25-second lead, so I'm just letting the AI do its business.
Well, I'm in the gravel. Whatever I've done, I was driving really well in the dry, but I can't drive this car in the wet at all.
You were driving really well in the dry, actually. I'm kind of sad that we had contact because I wanted to race you again.
I think you'll come around to lap me in a minute.
Ugh. But also, the wet has always been my forte.
Yeah, it's not mine.
Right, I've forgotten where we were now. We've been talking about Honda and Red Bull not having a traditional works relationship. Yeah, I'm curious about how that is. I don't know if it's some kind of marketing tie-up. What I find interesting though is that Honda have been trying to get a Japanese driver in at Toro Rosso, but it seems Red Bull are quite resistant to that, given that they seem to want to parachute Dan Ticktum in there.
Yeah, and interestingly, now I may have imagined this entirely, but Dan Ticktum is also driving in Super Formula in Japan, and part of me went, I wonder if this is to try and get Japanese love, so that actually they don't want a Japanese driver, but they'll have an Englishman who is now known in Japan for driving in Super Formula.
It could be the Super Formula,
which is actually
that
really
works.
Quite fun. Actually, I've watched that now for a few races.
It's fun to say.
It is, and
the commentators
might get
thrown off the internet for doing a racism, but it's fun to say.
It is, but the commentators are amazing because they just shout at each other, and its support series is amazing because there's a 35 car grid. But people turn up and there's like people in their 50s on the grid, and then there's people who only have a single name. They don't have a surname. So it's just like Akuma is in P33, and I was like, I love this so much. Late night beverages, always welcome for that one. But yeah, when I saw him driving in Super Formula, I think it might have just been a one-off, but he was diving around in the top 10. The car broke down, so he didn't finish. But I was like, I wonder if this is to show you that you're willing to work with the Japanese ethos.
Yeah. Actually, this is one of Daniel Ricciardo's sticking points in his contract negotiations. He still hasn't signed, and he said to the press, even though Helmut Marko and Christian Horner were saying, he doesn't need much convincing, he said to Autosport that he hadn't signed yet because he wasn't really sure about the logic behind the Red Bull Honda tie-up, and he said, I won't know if I'm happy about it until I drive it, and by then, I'm already committed. It's funny how everything's gone from gold to shit for Danny Rick, actually, recently. His form's sort of dipped off into the toilet a little bit, although still respectable. And he's lost all his bargaining power with Red Bull. I feel I feel very sorry for him, actually. And I really wanted to see him change teams, but it's just not going to happen, it seems. Part of me is still hoping he pops up in McLaren randomly. I would quite love to see that.
That is a crazy deal, but it's super intriguing me as well.
Yeah, because he hasn't said no. That's the thing. Like Helmut Marko was like, they keep upping the offer every week, but he's not going to go. He's going to stay with us. And Daniel Ricciardo is like, no comment. I'm kind of hoping he goes. I don't think it would be good for his career, but it'd be good to sort of spice things up.
Maybe that's
they need someone other than Stoffel the Waffle to partner.
Well, I still think Nando's gone, and so if they need someone who is going to, I'm kind of thinking that actually McLaren will go with a clean sweep and go for Norris, and if they can get Ricciardo, then they'll be sorted. If not, then I'm not sure who their first driver will end up being. But whatever they'll do, they need someone who has got that Charles Leclerc mentality, which Stoffel Van Dorn kind of outwardly does, but then he's so PR'd to the nth degree. I can't tell if it's actually truthfully a positive attitude or not.
he's really a product of like broom handle up the arse, old style McLaren, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a Ron Dennis era McLaren product. You can tell.
Yeah.
In a way that actually Lewis never seemed to be. It's funny that. I think though, I mean, for me, Van Dorn has become the Formula One equivalent of wallpaper paste. He's bland. He's there. You don't notice. Sometimes he fails. The wallpaper falls. Not the end of the world. No one really cares. He's just. That's the cardinal sin of a Formula One driver, is to be like bland and inoffensive and sort of uncompetitive. Yeah. Like, you know, I remember Yuji Ide more fondly than I remember Stoffel Van Dorn, and because at least, you know, Ide did something we could talk about.
Yeah.
It just isn't the case here. It just, I never have any news about Stoffel. Except that, oh, he's slow again. And it's like, well, why is he slow? Well, it's hard to say. He's not a bad driver. And it can't be the car because Nando's getting pace out of it. So it's like the boring Bermuda Triangle. Why can't Van Dorn compete? Like the boring question on nobody's lips that no one can be asked to answer, even McLaren. They're just going to bin him off. They're not going to even do the analysis, I can tell. He's dead to me now. He's dead to me. And I do kind of feel sorry for him as well, because I know there's a good driver in there somewhere. He's just buried under all the media. Mm-hmm. Or to steal a quote from Bo Selector, he's not even mediocre, he's under the bloody ochre.
Love it. Love it.
Could we talk Haas for a little while?
Of course we can.
Because you and I were talking before in the pre-show that has finally changed his tune. He's opened up the songbook and switched from "I still support Grosjean" to veiled threats of firing Grosjean in the future. Aside from being quite the turnaround, it's sort of predictable and long overdue. But it's just interesting to hear him finally do it. It's kind of like Christian Horner and criticising Max. It's like the obvious thing to do that you never thought he would do. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered why Steiner was so like invested, not treading on Grosjean's toes. But finally, he said what we were all thinking, which is he has to do something or else he's toast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the renaissance K-Mags is having there and how the team is far outperforming what you or I thought they would be capable of, and I have to say they've really impressed me. I still have no particular fondness for them because I think they dishonour my family. They bring dishonour on the Constructors' Championship with their business model, and I know that's quite a hyperbolic thing to say, but I still believe it. I don't think they're a constructor. I have to say I'm impressed with the way they've approached the season and the pace that they found, even if most of it is down to Ferrari doing the heavy lifting for them.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Now you can see how shit my car is.
It doesn't look very comfortable in the wet there, mate.
No. You just picked me up coming out of the gravel at Stowe, so...
I pitched you off?
No. That's why you just come across me now, and not like in 2 laps' time, because I was just coming out of the gravel.
Ah, okay.
I've been in it, having a little play.
Did you see I almost lost it, though, as I got past you? I was trying to leave plenty of room to make sure I didn't accidentally tap you, and then my rears spun up because I got them out on the painted tarmac stuff that has no grip.
Yeah,
but yeah, what's your takeaway on all this? I mean, it really has become K-Mag's team, no?
I think it has. It's particularly internally, it's become heavily K-Mag's team because having known of some people that work in that organisation, I have chums in a few of the teams now. I'm doing well, getting the feelers out for us, and in general, inside, as it is portrayed outside, Kevin Magnussen's fighting spirit is loved because he stands up for the team and doesn't throw his toys straight out at everyone else. Grosjean has changed his tact and has gone from a something's wrong to I'm sorry. But that's because he's losing the respect of people internally. He was able to get away with complaining for 2 years because with Gutierrez, it didn't really matter for the first year because he couldn't drive for nothing at all. So therefore, as a team leader, you can gain that respect and trust. Similar to Ferrucci, you can be a knob because you can bring home the bacon. As soon as that's
sorry to cut you off, but his early horse drives were actually really strong as well.
Yeah. And he done some good stuff last year in flashes, but now that he's unsettled and it's gone, he can't do that angriness. And they're seeing actually that what happens to a team when someone comes in and gives that positive attitude, they like feeling supported, and internally, I don't think Grosjean is still actually supporting the team and is still throwing the blame around, not at him.
Oh God, he's going to turn up in a Williams, isn't he? Sorry, I just had like a moment. Yeah, I just had a moment where I glimpsed the future and I was like, oh God, he's going to turn up in a Williams. I can see it now.
I don't
or a
think
McLaren.
Oh, I could see a McLaren. I can't see a Williams.
No, really, I think because I think Stroll's going to take his toys away at Williams, so they do. I really could, because I mean the thing is, he's one of those drivers that he's not delivering, and he spent more of his career not delivering, but you feel that he can deliver.
Yeah.
And you know he's been trading on really his first 2 horse drives and his 2013 or 2014 Lotus year, ever since those things happened, but it's been enough to carry him. And it's funny that in my mind, it's still enough to carry him. Like, I still think he's a good driver, but he's done nothing recently to warrant that praise.
Yeah, I don't know with him. I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time to move on, and he would be one of the first people that I'd throw out of the sport actually for a new driver to come in. Especially with the pressure of just 20 drives on the grid. He would probably be... he would be my first one to go at the moment.
Oh no, Van Dorn for me, definitely.
Van Dorn would be second.
If I was like to become Alan Sugar and I had to say you're fired to guys on the grid right now, yeah, probably Grosjean, Van Dorn... Though he breaks my heart, probably Hartley as well. Not that I think he's not capable, but I just don't think he's finding his feet, and I sort of don't see him turning it around. And he's never going to be given a fair crack of the whip, so it's best to like go somewhere where you've got a bit more respect. And Kimi, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Kimi's just... he just strikes me as toothless these days.
Too much ice cream, that's why. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm glad that Günther Steiner is putting the boot in. I think it's overdue. I don't know if there's anything that the team can do. It's got to be a Grosjean thing that will need to happen, and I can see it almost becoming like you've got a one race suspension. That'll be the next thing, because it was that turned him around with the Spa crash, wasn't it? And then he was all right for a couple of years, and now he's degenerated back into that again.
But do you mean Haas suspending him for a Grand Prix?
No, the
giving the caveat, because I don't see the sport banning him for a race at the moment.
I think he will do something really, really stupid. It's on the cards, and if Haas, I wouldn't be surprised if Haas rest him for a race. It's just they don't have anyone to replace him with, because they didn't want Giovinazzi as their test driver. They said that he didn't bring enough knowledge in. Their drivers further down. Hello, Low Budget Gaming. Thank you for joining. their drivers in development are
all racist.
Yeah, or and now sacked as well, or they are actually too junior, because that's Dan Ticktum's problem as well, is that he doesn't actually qualify for a super license, so he can't come in.
Oh, that's weird, because I was reading articles talking like it was a done deal and he was going to replace Hartley before the end of the season.
No, and Dan, because on Instagram, Dan Ticktum was making a joke out of it. He was like, I don't know when I'm going to be taking this drive, because currently I don't have the points license to do so. So
I've got different kinds of points on my license.
Yeah. Indeed. So yeah, all a craze. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that is kind of a good point as well, because like I think it's right that Haas are saying, well, we can't stick with him if he's not delivering. But I mean, who even fucking knows who's going to replace him?
Because have you not noticed that all the teams that have got gaps are all the teams that don't have a succession plan for drivers, and it all feels a bit random. Whereas the teams that have got like drivers that you can kind of see will stick around for a couple of years have got drivers queuing out of their arses to come and drive for them. Like Force India have got George Russell waiting in the wings. McLaren have all of the people in the wings. Ferrari have a junior program, and Mercedes have a junior program that have got people kind of waiting around everywhere. And you kind of think, oh God, well, who's going to get the Haas? Who's going to get the Williams drivers? They just don't have anyone.
No, I'm still scared Kubica's going to pop up somewhere.
Did you listen to the Kubica podcast?
I didn't, but I did read an article that touched on it, because he was talking about Ferrari 12.
Yeah, he'd signed to replace Massa in 2012.
Which, does not surprise me in the slightest. I mean, can you imagine, though, how we'd be talking about him now if that had happened?
Yeah.
We've been robbed. We've been robbed of a great.
Yeah, agreed. What was really funny, though, I do recommend, actually, I found the Lewis Hamilton one was actually quite interesting as well. But they...
I find that hard to believe. It was all about hats and hip-hop, wasn't it?
It was about him not on the track and how he deals with stuff. But it's interesting to see how he qualifies himself. I always find it gives out a lot about a driver, about how he sees the world and how he thinks the world sees him. And how an interviewer interviews him as well. They're very different styles. It's the same guy that interviews everyone. But Robert wasn't actually giving... I've forgotten his name. It's the Clarkson guy.
Tom Clarkson.
That's it. Tom Clarkson's doing the interviews. But Robert is just giving no time for him to talk. He just shouts over the top of him. And he was like, yeah, I love rally. I do rally. I went rallying because I wanted to find something in driving that no one else had. And he was like, do you not think that was a mistake? He was like, no. He says, because now that I've come back and I raced... he was doing rallying before the 2010 season, which was when he'd done really well for Renault. He said the reason why I was doing so well that season was because I'd gone off and rallied elsewhere. He says, but no one ever attributes that to that. And Tom was asking exactly what he said would attribute, why would rallying actually give him a better discipline? And he was saying in races in 2010, there were races which were dry-wet. And what the rallying stuff gave him was an extra feel so that he could stay out on dry tyres longer and not deal with people going around burning up wet tyres, and then would catch loads and loads of time in those laps and then the laps where tyres were burnt out later on. He said, I'd never have known how to deal with those conditions better than anyone else if I wasn't rallying, so he doesn't necessarily regret doing it. I just thought that was really, really interesting as an insight. And his entire interview was all about how he never ever really thought about or wanted to be a Formula One driver. He just wanted to be the best at what he could be, and if that took him to Formula One, so be it. So he kind of doesn't feel that he's lost an opportunity from stuff. I just thought it was an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes a good point. I mean, it didn't go that way for Kimi Räikkönen, clearly.
No.
But, I mean, I was surprised at the time that he was allowed to do it. You know, that in the top of the particularly hard drivers, whether there's a risk of injury. And I was quite proud of Renault at the time for saying, "Oh, we'd still make the same decision today, knowing what we know, because it enriches the drivers, you know." But I it's also well, I didn't hear him. I read him talk about how he feels he got a bit of an easy ride from the press.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with his. He said, like, the fact that I was presumed to be mega, in his words, when I was testing Formula One cars, it hid the fact that really I was a rookie. The cars are so different from the ones I've driven before.
Yeah, he did talk about that, yeah. And also, by that extension, the whole retest against Sirotkin. So what he was saying was basically a shootout with Sirotkin. Everyone expected that he would go faster. And he said that, of course I would never go faster. He said, because these guys have all been driving these cars, working up to this formula, because that's how that they imagine stuff and how they would know. He says, my knowledge is so out of date now. It's like I'm coming to this formula as a rookie and I needed that time to learn. He said, so it was like having two rookies go for a shootout, as you were saying. And that kind of then makes me kind of think, well, Williams, what do you get out of having Kubica in a test position, because his knowledge won't necessarily transfer over? You need to be putting him there almost like as a driver mentor role more than a tester.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by my assessment that I don't want him to come back in the sport. I think it would tarnish his legacy, and I don't think he's in any fit condition. I don't think it's good for him. I don't think it's good for the team that takes him on. Particularly now he's saying by his own admission, well, I'm essentially a rookie. But you're not, though, are you? You're in your mid-30s. Like, your driving career is coming to its end, at least in Formula One terms.
Yeah.
I think it's probably time to let it go, mate.
Yeah.
I think it's time to let it go and find something else to do, because there's plenty of other things he could do.
Yeah.
And do well. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think like he's probably got a problem with endurance racing, but I certainly think GT racing he could be fine at. I just don't see why he's not letting this Formula One thing go. And, you know, especially now you're saying to me, you know, repeating what he was saying in interview, it actually makes me not necessarily lose respect for him so much as think that he sounds a little naive or a little ignorant. Because, you know, it's like a career change at 55.
Yeah.
It's not technically impossible, but it's probably not the smartest decision you could make. Actually, not an easy decision to make. If you've been a plumber all your life and you get to 55 and say, "Oh, I'm going to go back to university and I'm going to become a theoretical physicist," it doesn't matter whether you're capable of it. No one's going to hire you. Your working years are behind you. You're out of date.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't feel too mean saying that, because Robert and I are not exactly a million miles apart in age, and there's lots of things in my life that I can't do anymore because I'm too old and decrepit. It's just the way the world works. You know, I can't have a major career change at this point. No one's going to have to take you. So you eventually, at some point in your life, get railroaded into a discipline. And it's literally, in fact, it's even harsher, because you have such competition from the guys beneath you, but also your knowledge goes out of date so quickly.
Yeah.
It's hard for a young guy with two functioning arms to make a comeback to Formula One. Usually once you're out, you're out.
Yep.
That's it. I really hope that no one wastes any more time with this nonsense, but I've got a feeling that they will.
No, it will, because it's a PR story come true. The problem is that a bit like Susie Wolf, this is going to run and run and run. And I think what they'll do is, like, it will peak with these FP1 sessions, and they might do an FP1 sessions for like next year as well, because he kind of left saying, I'd like to be on the grid for 2019, and I think I stand a relatively decent enough chance to get it. And I was like, no, because
No.
as soon as Susie Wolf was ever to be given a Grand Prix drive, then she would have been respectable, but they couldn't have said that she was the next best thing, because she would have been shown to have been maybe a second off of Massa, which is still amazing, but still not F1 quality. If Kubica comes back in and can sustain a race distance, but is still a second off of Stroll or Sergei Sorokin or whoever his teammate would be, that would be considered a failure, because it's still good by like 99% of the world. But if you're supposed to be in the higher echelons of sport, you can't have that fairy tale that all of Twitter and social justice warriors around the world would love to have, because it just doesn't work like that. And it can't be engineered into a story like that either.
No, I agree. I have to disagree with you on one thing, though, and that is, I don't think Susie Wolf would have even brushed a second of Massa. And I say that with the greatest of respect for Susie, but you and I have had this discussion before, and in terms of women in Formula One, there is a laundry list of candidates who are better qualified. Her record in motorsport was abysmal.
Yeah, it's not great.
I do see the parallel, though, and I think the whole thing with Kubica will probably fall apart the moment, let's say, Lance Stroll has a tantrum and doesn't want to do a Grand Prix, or comes up and they don't put Kubica in it, because that's what killed Susie Wolf's career as well. Like, after they stuck Paul di Resta in that car, because actually I found that disrespectful to Susie. I found it disrespectful to Williams and its heritage. I found it disrespectful to the sport, and I actually found it disrespectful to women. I don't like tokenism, and I think they could have had a development driver, if they'd been really serious about it, who would have been on the pace and able to compete, but they didn't. They took the easy and lazy option, and it does everybody a disservice.
Particularly when your team is being run by a woman.
Yes. I would have expected better from Claire Williams, actually, now you mention it. Yeah, completely true.
Yeah. No, agree.
But one of my biggest laments, actually, is that Simona de Silvestro never got her chance.
Yeah, because she's struggling in V8.
Test.
Yeah, she's struggling in V8 supercars. They're too chunky and heavy. And she shows flashes of
driver.
Yeah. So she's knocking around in the back 6 to 8 cars in the grid all the time. She's on the pace, but at the back of the grid, like not disrespectfully off the pace. She's in talks, though, of going up to a better team, which might help her out for next year. But she's shown flashes of form, but that's not her forte. Talking of women drivers, actually, like, it also pains me to be really disappointed in GP3 with Tatiana Calderon, who done sterling stuff in the test sessions, but when it's come to the race weekends, she's been knocking around outside the top 10, and points only go down to 10th, and she keeps coming in 11th and 12th, or being twatted out of the race by a crazy American. There's a guy in F3 called Juan Manuel Correa, who is literally Maldonado Jr., but with good flair whilst he does it. So he will like flick the car out into a slide and then take a teammate off and then like dance off completely unscathed. You're like, how did you do that? But yeah, they seem to keep coming to blows. But Calderon now is the only full-time driver that has not scored a point. But she's not the slowest ever, but she's always 11th or 12th, and I just think I'll just excel in something. And she should have excelled in Silverstone, because she was running around in the top 10 for most of the race, but that's the reverse race where only the top 8 score. And I was like, no, you chose the wrong one to be competitive. And it's a shame because she does have some talent, but I think landing that Sauber test drive is at the wrong time for her because she needs more time. But she's already on, I think, her second season or third season in that category, so she needs to be pushing on in the same way that Mick Schumacher needs to keep doing better where he is. At least he was running around in the top 5 or 6 at Zandvoort this morning, but that's his second year in Renault FIA Formula 3. Get better now.
How is he doing though? Is he? Because I keep hearing mixed reports about him, and I'm starting to get the feeling he might be a bit crap. But then his dad didn't do great in junior Formula, did he?
No, he's really topsy-turvy. There's races where he's nowhere, and then like today in Zandvoort, he was third on the grid and was running third all the race. But there's no rhyme or reason as to why he is up or down, and it's not like due to his team because his teammates are also like quite competitive all the way through. So I can't make my mind up about him, but for sure he gets. Oh God, I said for sure. No, I'm a racing driver. He's absolutely getting like both the good and the bad of having that name, I think, because it's opening up doors to him that maybe he shouldn't have with his current results, but then people are expecting way more from him because of those results.
The Bruno Senna phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people need to realise as well that some people are just a one-station talent, and that's not hereditary.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who would have thought Jos Verstappen could produce Max Verstappen? That has no rhyme or reason.
Oh, I like Jos. He was crash happy. Although he was crash happy, so was his son.
Yeah, he was just all the time. But no, I mean, I loved Jos as well. I mean, I loved him at Arrows. I thought it was like Jos at Arrows was my favourite thing ever. But it's just a case of him. Max is a whole different league of talent. And to go on to assume that Jos's grandkids would have Max's talent is just insane. That's not how it works. Racing driving ability is not hereditary. It's down to the hours you put in. I mean, of course, you have to be physically fit, and genetics helps with that to a certain extent. But it's about mindset and how you've been molded. Nature certainly plays a role, but it's one of the things that how you're raised and whether you get into the sport early. I mean, a lot of these second-generation racing drivers, because they're afforded opportunity their parents didn't have.
Yeah.
My Max looks so good compared to Jos is that Jos came from shit and had to start from nothing, and then Max grew up the son of a successful Formula 1 driver and was able to get into karting, from the age of 4 or whatever, and he always had the best kit. And
yeah, sorry, I just crashed into the pit lane. took out all the marker boards, and I've got polystyrene stuck on my head.
Oh, classic Failcast, Simon! You've done us proud.
Yay! Still missed the bapped car though, so that's good.
I've just gone off to mow the grass.
I'm on dries.
I'm going to dries as well, even though it's still raining. Oh wow, I'm very low on fuel. Need to do something about that. I'm too...
Oh, I didn't get a word of that, mate. It's all cut out.
Oh, damn it.
Oh no. No! No! I think that answers whose internet connection's a bit rubbish today. Oh dear. Well, it ain't Failcast without a fail, and there's our fail. I hope you're all proud, audience. So, whilst Ben sorts himself out, I just wanted to talk quickly about Formula 2, which is my favourites. Oh, hang on, we've got another party invite. Here we go. Diving through. Let's sort this one out. And we're back.
Yeah, I'm... that was the PlayStation Network as well, because it killed the session for me completely.
Yeah,
Are you still in?
Still in, and you're still leading. To be fair, but it's not you. I think it's just AI.
No, but I mean, I'm going to consider that a moral victory. I've won the race
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm like 2 minutes. What I was saying was when off is I'm 2 minutes ahead of the guy in second, but I'm a lap down on fuel. But I was like, well, that's a problem. That solves itself.
Christ. Well, there's only 9 laps left, so we can chat off the remaining couple of topics beforehand.
Let's do that.
Just whilst you was off air, I was just about to do an F2 update on other sons of former drivers, of ones that we would love. Can I just say that Jean-Denis Delatraz's son is pretty good. Louis Delatraz is well worthy of the hype, and he's now a proper front-running driver that is doing really well. Whoever was in third position has actually stopped at Cops. I don't know what's going on there. Because since he got his first podium, which I think was at Azerbaijan, he's now been contending for wins and podiums all the way through, and is now a genuine front-runner in F2. So the fact that I can literally confidently say that a Delatraz is aiming for a podium at every race gives me great joy.
It gives me joy as well, actually. I was hoping it'd be good. I'm also hoping that Jean Alais's son comes good. But I think he's missed his window, right?
Yeah, he's getting better, actually. He was a bit ropey on when he first started in GP3. But last year he kept on winning the reverse grid races where you have to keep coming 8th in the actual normal race, and then they reverse the top 8, and he would always be 8th and then win from pole in the second one where no one could touch him. But now he's actually starting to not finish 8th and do a bit better during the other races, which means that he's doing better driving but scoring less points, if that makes sense.
Kind of. I mean, it's a disappointing way round, but yes, kind of.
Yeah, so he's not doing so well in the championship, but it's because he's finishing better in the actual proper chunky feature race. But yeah, he's doing not too bad. However, I have bad news that our favourite Mr. Nissani, his son, is still the slowest driver in Formula 2 by quite some way.
Oh, bugger.
He seemed to have got it together for a race or two, but no, he is genuinely last on the grid at pretty much every race by about half a second as well from the next best person. And it genuinely doesn't look like he deserves his place on that whatsoever. But he's nowhere near as bad as what his dad is, so he is a step up from that. And he doesn't disgrace himself, it's just that he is the slowest every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping that we might have, one hereditary name enter the sport that isn't as disgraceful, but can't have it all, can we?
No. So yeah, talent, not hereditary, but the makeup definitely helps, as you say. Yeah,
for sure. What else do we have on our schedule? I'm sure we had some more topics to cover. Oh, that's right. Pierre Gasly has been talking to the press. And he says that, but basically, he's scared of Sauber. He thinks that there's no way Toro Rosso can compete with them. And you and I were kind of in agreement with that.
Yeah, they're coming unstrung, aren't they? And for me, like that Toro Rosso, it's a team that doesn't quite know its arse from its elbow. For me personally, at the moment, and so it wouldn't surprise me that whilst they regroup and find out what they're up to, Sauber couldn't well nick away their seventh quite quickly. What about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all but inevitable, to be honest. And it's a shame because, well, it kind of is and isn't, because Sauber are my favourite team, but Toro Rosso are a pretty close second for me. I've got a lot of fondness for them, and I want them both to do well, but if I had to pick, Sauber all the way, so, I'm kind of fine with this turn of events. I just think you're right. The change to Honda hasn't been a negative, but it has been disruptive, and I think they still have some kinks to iron out, and they have to figure out this new identity that they've got. Mm-hmm. But they will, and I'm confident that Toro Rosso will probably come out of the gates a lot stronger next year. I think it was kind of a mishmash damage mitigation season this year, given how late into the season it was, before they were able to get their hands on the engine, and it was a very late day decision. So for me, I think they will come good, almost certainly.
Do you think that Red Bull having the Honda engine next year will be a help or a hindrance now that they don't have sole love-in with Honda?
Good question. I actually think it'll be a help, because Toro Rosso and Red Bull already work together so closely anyway. I actually think it's a good thing that both teams are on the same page, and utilising the leverage that they share from basically being the same company. To me that's a common sense thing. It's definitely what I would have done were I calling the shots. I think really we'll start to see this partnership yield benefits mostly from next year for Toro Rosso. I think Red Bull might have a patchy year next year, but that ultimately it'll come good. I don't know whether they'll be championship contenders ever. I get the feeling probably not, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they do achieve some success.
No, I agree. I agree. I think there's safety in numbers, and you're right with them being the same company sharing data. It's more people accumulating data for Honda, which lets them get forward quicker. It does make sense. It always confused me actually going back. Although I can see the strategic reasoning for doing it as well. Do you remember when Red Bull and Toro Rosso didn't have the same tyre supplier? And I was always like, yes. Why not? And then I thought, I wonder if it's just to try and work out which one's actually better overall, and then just like switch and hobble over. But it never really became of anything. But I always felt it was a weird decision.
Yeah, definitely. Because it makes sense to have them. I mean, you could for like one season as an experiment if you were thinking of making a permanent switch. But there was times before, right, where Toro Rosso were on Ferrari power and Red Bull were on Renault power, and you think, well, why? Mm-hmm. Surely it makes sense for you guys to work together, but apparently not. What do I know? I'm just some schmuck on the internet. I have bad news. I bring bad news from the world of the internet.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I just logged into the Sauber team shop because I saw that the new polo shirts are out.
Uh-oh.
And they've already sold out.
No!
Yeah, I know, and it's much more reasonably priced than the Sauber merchandise was when they were shit. Because if you remember, like my Sauber polo shirt ended up costing something like €90 once I paid taxes to import it and everything. The new ones are €60, which is ballpark for the other teams, actually.
That's better.
So it's like £55. And they do look phenomenal, actually. I have to say, I do like the Sauber team wear.
I'm waiting for payday so I can get my Minardi stuff.
Oh, I checked out that website that you so kindly shared with me and the audience base. They've got a Ligier T-shirt that I was quite fond of as well. It was sort of like mottled grey though, and I can never like pull that off. I know that's a very vain thing to say, but it's true. But yeah, by Christ, it was good to see there was some really old names in there as well. There was like, if I remember correctly, there was some Zack Speed merchandise. I was saying, Christ, this is from a parallel universe, it feels.
Yeah. I will slowly be going around that website and eating up all of the different bits and bobs. But us talking about how we don't like the classic car selection for F1 2018 game, there's March livery on there, and there's Zack Speed liveries on there, and they've got the rights to do all of that merch. Code is sort it out. Go to Retro F1, buy yourself some licenses.
Yeah, we did have this conversation actually, and maybe some people in chat have similar feelings to us, but we've always been bothered that the classic cars have always been provided in like odd quantities, and you can't form a full grid. And they've always said, well, it's kind of hard to get the licensing from the old teams. And when we actually spoke about it, we thought, we don't know where they're having the problem. For example, all the rights to the March designs were bought by one American man who licenses them freely. He's got an email address and a phone number. You call him up, say, I want to license the March design. He's got all the original blueprints and technical drawings that the works. He provides support to people who run old March cars or who want to produce new ones. His website actually is really great. It's not as good now as it used to be, because he used to have a little shop attached to it and you could buy March merchandise. But it's called, well, it's like a blend of March and archives, so it's like marchives.com. But yeah, they have that. Paul Stoddart still has the rights to Minardi and Tyrrell. He bought all the Tyrrell stuff when they folded. Ligier is still an active company. Sauber are still on the grid. They've been on the grid since like 94, 95, if I think, or was it even 93?
93.
Yeah, 93. So they've got a whole back catalogue of cars that they could get hold of quite easily. Renault have a large legacy catalogue. I mean, I understand like Benetton might be hard to get, or Arrows, because no one really knows who owns the estate, I suppose you would call it, or the like the legacy IPs from Arrows, because of the way they folded and their assets were sort of scattered to the winds. But you know, Arrows aside, I can't really think of many teams that you wouldn't really be able to get your hands on someone who owns the permissions. You know, it's not something that just lapses. I mean, maybe Leighton House. And what was that team where the guy fled the country and was killed in a hotel shootout after throwing a hand grenade?
Oh, Andrea Moda.
Yeah, that's no. What was it, Andrea Moda? No, wasn't it?
I thought
it driving me bonkers now.
I thought it was. Andrea Sassetti was the guy's name, but
yeah, but he's still alive.
Yeah.
And you actually could definitely get the rights to the Andrea Moda car from him, because yeah, he still owns them. Now there was a team. I don't know if it might have been like a phase that LaRousse was in. It could have been LaRousse actually. Like there was an investor, and he turned out he was a complete con man, and he was killed in a hotel shootout.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like the Wikipedia article is fantastic, because it's like, oh, he escaped his hotel with judicious use of a hand grenade, and I was like, this is amazing. But then he was killed in a hotel shootout later on.
I feel like we need to have this as the next Formula One movie. Screw any rivalries on track.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Gerard LaRousse. The ruse of LaRousse.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, no, it wasn't LaRousse, but I'm going to find out which team it was. It was a team that fell apart in like the early 90s.
Oh, okay. Coloni?
Was it Leighton House?
Leighton House was Japanese developers because then March took it back over for 92 and 93.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the 92 season. The guy who resurrected March.
Oh, okay. Because apart from that, Brabham went under. Fond Metal went under.
Yeah. Onyx went under around then as well, right?
Yeah, 91, I think. Because they went. Oh, they went to Monte. It must be them because that's when it went to Monteverde, and they was Monteverde for about 5 races, and then they disappeared.
It could be. Let me take a look.
I'm racking my brains.
I'm live researching this for you now for the podcast.
Excellent. We only have a lap and a quarter left, so we're okay. And I've just overtaken you for second, but you have won. You was 2 minutes ahead of everyone. It was fine.
How did you catch me up?
Because the AI is driving appallingly.
Oh, outrageous. The AI squandered a 2-minute lead. Like, that is... Well, we need to up the AI, obviously, because that was the same level we played our whole season on, and the other races, and somehow I managed to build a 2-minute lead. I don't know if... Has there been a new version that maybe it's bugged or something?
No, I don't think so. Maybe the AI of the classic cars isn't as strong.
Yeah, it could be, actually, because they're supposed to be amateur drivers, right?
I think so, yeah.
Right, it wasn't Onyx. So I'm now Googling Formula 1 team hand grenade.
I bet you get Shinji Nakano's engine exploding at Monza 98 or something like that.
For some reason it's giving me Stoddart, but it definitely wasn't him killed in a hotel shootout.
Oh my god, amazingly it's all, there's a Stoddart robot going around just going fucking ridiculous whenever you press a button.
Oh man, I miss Paul Stoddart. He is still on the grid though. He's running the 2-seaters, which apparently are going really well.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. I'd shit myself.
Yeah, me too.
I'd love to.
I don't know how they pick who gets to do it. Presumably it's whoever pays the most, but I would love to give it a go. I think as well, like, what I find interesting is that he's hired Mike Gascoigne to like design a new package for it.
Oh wow!
And that to me was especially interesting because it kind of tickles me into thinking, what are you doing, Paul? Are you coming back?
Oh, that'd be amazing. George
Well, because
do it.
Because they're so desperate to expand the grid and get teams coming back in that I sort of wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
I'd love it. I would allow him to call it Minardi again, so long as they politely propped up the back of the grid and occasionally got a top 10. That'd be great.
That's key to the whole thing, I think. I think it just surprises me that he's putting so much money into it, because I can't see... Like, running the retro cars, I could see that as being profitable, but developing like a new aero package and trying to make an old chassis more like modern cars, that's quite an expensive endeavour. So it makes me wonder, what is the logic behind it? Is this like a clandestine testing program, Paul? You're gonna say, oh, it's not a new car, 2002 Arrows, and no one believes, and then suddenly you're out doing representative laps.
Hello, Phoenix F1. Welcome.
It's quite to get round it, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I've now explained why your AI was terrible. It was running around 4 seconds slower. It was like, it seemed like when they changed back to dries, your driver was stuck at wet weather speed.
Nah.
Because it ended up a minute 40 off the winner. Which
I'm still counting it as a win.
I think it was still a win. Well done.
Woo! I count it as a win, 100%. Well, my friend, another successful episode down. It's 2 weeks till we meet again. And in the meantime, though, you and I have to figure out what we're going to do with the remainder episodes, because our new season starts actually a month from now.
It does. It does. The countdown has begun. I've pre-ordered my edition, and it's I've got a physical thing, and I'm doing it from someone that I know always ships out early. So I'm hoping that the postie will deliver it the day before, and I'll be like, and I've booked the day off.
Yeah,
work.
I got mine early as well. Actually, like this year, I was nervous because at the time I thought maybe it's best to download it, but then I realised, well, actually, the disc does all the heavy lifting for you, right? And it was really successful for me last year, to the point that I thought we could have actually done the launch day special we normally do, but we didn't know that at the time. So this year, I'm hoping Amazon deliver early again. I'm super excited for this game as well.
Yeah, so I can't wait to get back.
Even more so than the last one. Yeah.
So, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. If anyone's got any particular suggestions about the type of race they'd like us to do next time, since we've got a couple of fun ones, stick it in the comments below, and we will take a look. If not, we will catch you soon. Oh, Chimpy's just joined in. Oh, I missed it. Well done.
Just let me give you a slow clap there, mate.
Never mind. Hit that rewind button, mate. And we'll catch everyone in 2 weeks' time. Thanks as always, Mr. Esteban. And don't forget, we've got some articles over at failcastf1.com now. Go take a look.
That's right. Got some going up tomorrow. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Bye. Wow. That was epic fail of an epic fail cast of all the fails.